So let's relate this then to the RED Grants application to show you how we sort of do this. Now, with the RED Grants, you don't need to answer all the RED Grant objectives. So Tonya ran through what the objectives are. You don't have to answer all of them. You answer the ones that are relevant to your project. I talk more about that in the videos that Tonya mentioned. So on the South West Development Commission website, there are videos of how to write a quality RED grant. The person doing that is just gorgeous. It's really embarrassing. But they're really, really helpful, and they talk a lot about how to answer RED grants specifically. So in there, I do say that you don't have to answer every single RED objective. However, I have never, in my whole time of writing RED grants, written a RED grant that has not covered sustainable jobs. So we got 9 RED grants last round, successful RED grants last round, and every single one, sustainable jobs. So pretty much always sustainable jobs is covered. So I thought I'd use that one as an example. I'm not saying it has to be. I just can't think of anyone we have ever done that hasn't covered sustainable jobs. So I'll talk about sustainable jobs. Just as some jargon, FTE means full-time equivalent. So obviously one full-time equivalent is one full-time job. 0.5 FTE is somebody who works 2.5 days, so half a position. Direct means jobs that are created directly. So they are directly related to, so construction phase, there's 2 phases in every project. So the first phase is the project delivery phase or the construction phase. So that's while you are delivering the project, and obviously spending $1 million on your project or whatever it is you're spending is going to create jobs, and it's going to give benefit to the region, but that's just during your project. And then there's the ongoing, what I call ongoing or the operational. So that's after your project's completed. So there's 2 phases to every project. You will create jobs in both phases. So you need to talk about both phases. That is why the Commission is giving, well, that is why the government is giving away the money, is the ongoing jobs that are created. But you should discuss both. Direct means jobs that are created directly. So ongoing direct jobs are jobs that you create in your business directly. Indirect means they're created because of you doing your project. So if I'm buying a whole bunch of extra hops, then I might be creating jobs in the farmers because they need more farm hands to get me those hops. So they're indirect jobs that I've created. Likewise in tourism, as I said, if I'm bringing extra tourists to the town with my amazing new tourism activity, if I'm bringing all these people to town, then they have to spend money at restaurants and accommodation. So I'm creating jobs in those businesses as well as directly in my tourism activity business. So when I'm answering the sustainable jobs response, I start the response by explaining how jobs will be created. So what will the project do that will create the jobs? So this project will increase revenue into the business, and because of that, we're going to need to hire all these extra staff. How will it do that? So one example of one that I've written is this project entails the installation of conveyor and roboticised packaging and palletising systems to the end processing chain of Company X, which is based in the South West region, and it supplies all of this stuff to all of these people. Introducing semi-automated mechanised systems into the production process will increase production levels and efficiency. Importantly, it will increase production capacity to meet increased demand, thereby increasing the business revenue and the number of staff needed by the business to undertake our work. So I've explained what the project is going to do that is going to create the jobs. Then I list the type of jobs that will be created. So I will then talk about the construction phase jobs. So during the project delivery, this many jobs will be created. So I'll go on to talk about that. So to quantify construction phase direct jobs, now obviously if you can pay for a cost benefit analysis for an economist to do a actual cost benefit analysis and look at all the input output modelling and give you all of that information, that's great, but that does cost some money. So if you're just doing this yourself, then construction phase jobs you can estimate based on how much money is going to be spent in the local area. So you may not spend all of the construction funds, all of the project funds in the local area because you can't, but you need to explain how much you will and then estimate based on that how much jobs that will create. So one of the things we've written is the project will deliver jobs during the construction phase. Although a lot of the equipment is specialised and cannot be bought locally, all the site works, shared utilities, connections and more will be purchased and completed locally. Based on an expected $470,000 of the total project budget being spent on local suppliers, it can be expected that 1.8 FTE jobs will be created during construction. This is based on a ballpark of 30% of revenue being spent on wages and an average wage of $80,000 a year. It's an estimate. It's not concrete. It's an estimate, obviously, because we can't know exactly how many jobs are going to be created without doing a whole lot of work that we don't have time for in 9 weeks. But it's an estimate. It gives the assessor something to understand how many jobs are going to be created because you've told them how much of your project budget is going to be spent in the local region, which is what REDS is all about. Now, with the construction phase indirect, that is very difficult. And we tend not to even try to quantify that unless you have a proper CBA. Because obviously what we're saying then is by spending this $470,000 on local businesses, they're then going to spend that money on other things, and it's really difficult. So I usually will just say indirect construction phase jobs will also be delivered and leave it at that because it's minor and it's not as important. In some projects it might be, so you might want to look into that. Then we list the ongoing jobs direct. Now this is about how many jobs you will create within your business. So this should be a fairly easy one to quantify because you've got your financial forecasts, and in those financial forecasts you've told me what your revenue is going to be and what your expenses are going to be, and in your expenses there's wages. So you should be able to look at those wages and say, after 1 year, 1 year after the project's complete, we will spend extra dollars on wages, which equates to however many FTE, based on an annual salary of whatever the amount is. So that should be really simple if you have done your financial forecasts. Sometimes businesses don't, they may do the financial forecast, but they also are very clear about what extra jobs they're going to need, because if I'm going to do this project, I'm going to need 1 sales manager, I'm going to need 1 operations manager, I'm going to need 3 packing staff or labour. So they might be very clear about that. So if you have a clear understanding that to do this project I need 5 FTE, then you need to explain. You can't just say we're going to create 5 FTE. You need to detail it. You need to tell me that 1 is a sales manager, 1's an ops manager and 3 are labourers. And this is what their roles will be. So tell me that. The other thing you need to do is make sure that when you have given us your financial forecast and you've shown us your revenue, that you haven't told me that you're creating 5 FTE positions, but your revenue is only going to increase by $50,000 a year. Because you cannot pay for 5 staff with $50,000 in extra revenue. But it has happened a lot, which is why I'm specifically saying it, that clients will tell us we're going to hire all these extra staff, and then when they give me their financial forecasts, the revenue does not match. You cannot hire that many FTE with that small revenue increase. So please make sure they align and they match if that's the way you do it. And then you need to look at the ongoing indirect. Now these are very important because, like we said, we're creating jobs, but we also want to know what you're doing to the rest of the businesses in the region. There must be other ongoing impacts that are happening. Now, this could be just in one way. It could just be that you because of the expenditure, so you're going to create all these jobs in your business, but every year you're going to spend an extra amount on local suppliers each year. So at the moment you're spending $50,000 on local suppliers, but once the project's completed, you're going to need to spend $450,000 a year on local suppliers. So that extra money that you're spending on local businesses is going to create jobs in those local businesses. So you need to quantify those. And again, it's very difficult because you're probably not going to be able to go to the local businesses and ask them, well, how many jobs will you hire? Because it might be 0.5 of an FTE or something like that. So the way you do that is the same. We do it the same way as we do the construction phase indirect generally, which is to identify how much money are you spending locally. So based on your financial forecast, there's an amount there that you're going to spend extra in the region. Based on that, what percentage of that? So your industry may have a certain, your industry might be that, okay, well, in our industry, we generally spend 30% of our revenue on wages, or it might be 50% because of your industry, or it might be 10%. Whatever your industry average is, you could use. That would be the best thing to use. So based on spending all this extra money in the region and a certain percentage of that being spent on wages and an average wage in WA, this is how many FTE will be created ongoing. So that's just on the money you're spending on local suppliers. If your business is also going to create indirect jobs through other reasons, now that could be that you're creating a product that local businesses are going to purchase, and by purchasing your product, it is going to enhance their business. It's going to make them more efficient. So their businesses will become more efficient, or their businesses will expand. So if they feed your stock feed, whatever it is, this product you've created, if they give that to their cattle are going to weigh more, and so they're going to get more money for their cattle, and so they're going to have extra revenue come in, and they might need extra staff. Or if it's a tourism activity, like I said, we're creating this tourism activity in this business. So we're going to attract all these extra visitors to the region, and because of that, all these visitors spend a certain amount of money. You would go and grab all that tourism data to show how many indirect jobs will be created in the tourism industry based on the amount of visitors you're going to attract. Does that make sense, or have I completely confused you? All good? Excellent. It is a process, and it's a process that you need to be a little bit flexible with, because you need to figure out how to quantify based on your specific project. Every project is different, and you need to work out how am I going to quantify the outcomes and evidence them based on my specific project and how we are doing it. You then follow the same process for each question, where you answer the question that they have asked and you evidence any claims made using all of this research and project planning that you've already done. As I said, there are the RED grant writing videos, which will go through REDs in a lot more detail, but this was just to give you a bit of an overview of how what I've just talked about in terms of project planning and research is important and how it's used in writing your application.